Hey everybody, my name's Ed. Okay, we're gonna do some more random comics. All right, this time we're gonna do E-Man #1. This is the first comics version from 1981. And you know what? Before we do anything else, I'm gonna take this hat off because it's actually very hot where I am right now. Okay, so he's back, E-Man. So E-Man was actually a Charlton superhero from the early mid 70s, created by Joe Staton and Nick Cuddy, I guess. Well, we'll get to that soon. We'll get to that soon enough. At some point, Charlton went out of business, and Joe Staton was able to buy the rights back from them. And probably anybody that watches this channel probably already knows, a couple years after that, DC bought the rights to most of their other superheroes, Blue Beetle, Captain Atom, and all these people. But anyway, this is right when First Comics was first getting started. Um, excuse me. And it seemed like a few like Marvel and DC artists were kind of gravitating towards First, and some of the other comic companies. And I'm sure I've mentioned this before, like Pacific and Eclipse was around, and because they were able to retain the rights to their characters, and I think they paid royalties and stuff like that. So I don't know. Again, I'm not 100% certain if they got the same sort of page rates that they were getting at Marvel and DC, but I do know they got these other benefits. So that made these smaller companies, these indie companies, uh, attractive to some of the bigger, to some of the more mainstream talent. Okay, so first we get editorial page. It looks like they're talking about Warp #1. Warp was this fantasy comic. I think the art was by Frank Brunner, but it's actually loosely based on a stage play that had come out like in the late 70s. Um, they're also talking about basically that and distribution and things like that. All right, okay. So anyway, the whole tone of, I should mention, the whole tone of E-Man at this point is pretty, it was pretty lighthearted back in the 70s. And in the 80s, they kind of went almost full on satire and parody. So you get this page here. You see they're shooting a movie called Raiders of the Lost Buick #2. Oh, wait, what year is this? This is, what we did the year. The cover says 1982, but the inside legal matter says 93. So we'll go with that. We'll go with April '93. But anyway, at that time, of course, Steven Spielberg was really big. Coming off of Jaws, Close Encounters. Then he does he does Raiders of the Lost Ark and the other Indiana Jones movies, and with George Lucas, and the guy was on fire at that point. So anyway, oh, this is kind of funny. You see him; he's putting on his makeup, Aunt Jemima's pancake makeup. Here's a scene of him snorting it, because we all know Hollywood actors are all on coke back in the '80s, right? And they're doing a little stunt here. Okay, then we cut to the apartment of Nova Kane. She's kind of taking her date home, and it looks like they're about to get romantic. Then E-Man shows up and kind of interrupts things, unintentionally, of course. But he sees that the stunt has gone out of control, and there's this giant boulder threatening people in the street. So it says EM Phone Home, which is of course a play on a Steven Spielberg movie, E.T. And that's basically the whole gag here. It's a spoof of the story's a spoof on Hollywood, but more specifically Steven Spielberg, who, like I said, was on on top of the world back in the early '80s. He was the cat's pajamas, right? There are lots of little background jokes and in jokes. Some of this stuff aged well, some of it doesn't. Some of it, I kind of feel you either would have had to been there in the '80s, or you have to be like a hardcore comic book fan to get. For instance, you see this scene here where E-Man is destroying the boulder, right? And this character here is explaining exactly what he's doing. E-Man broke that heavy boulder into smaller fragments, into lighter fragments. Yeah, with his energy bolts, he fires from his fingertips. There's an asterisk, and then the little footnote says, Mort Wessinger, a memorial expository, expository dialogue. Mort, of course, being an old DC editor. All right, DC Comics editor. All right, some slapstick humor here. Okay, all right. So Nova Kane, like I said, is this woman who is kind of E-Man's sidekick. She gets rid of the guy in her apartment, and E-Man tries to clean things up. Here's a gag here. E-Man, he's my kind of guy. Yeah, bet you he don't eat no quiche. Quiche Lorraine was a big deal again back in the early '80s. Everybody's eating quiche and all this sort of thing. And then you come out with the book. Oh man, I should have looked it up. I don't know where the saying came from. I want to say some dude wrote a book or wrote a tongue-in-cheek book about real men don't eat quiche. So and that became a thing unto itself. Okay, so here E-Man meets up with Steven Spielberg. Uh, what's his name in here? I'm Streampool Schmaltzberg, producer of this film. All right. Okay, so blah blah blah. He meets E-Man. He wants to do a movie about him. La di da di da. And he's just having a chit chat. They're in the video arcades. Remember, we used to go to video arcades back in the early '80s. I'm directing this picture, VD, the ultra detestable. It's about an alien, and I figure you for the title role. Okay. And even yeah, maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't do it, who knows, whatever. Some more stuff comes out here. And then here's Albert Einstein, or the ghost of Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein is basically the narrator of the story. He's this guy right here, and I guess Marty Platsko. Oh, did we even go over the credits? I know, I forgot to go over the credits here. So credits are plotted and written by Martin Plasko, drawn by Joe Staton, lettered and colored by Bruce D. Patton, edited by Mike Gold. So I can't believe I forgot to do the credits. But yeah, I guess Marty Pasco just thought it'd be funny to have, I don't know, Albert Einstein come in here out of nowhere. But I guess too, E-Man's logo is the energy equals MC squared formula, and of course, this is what Albert Einstein's known for. So I guess it makes sense in a way, but okay. So anyway, you find out that the Steven Spielberg figure has got some sort of deal going with some mysterious shadow figure. And then we go to the office of Michael Mauer. It doesn't even tell his name right here. But anyway, just because from what I remember from the comic, this guy is a private detective, and E-Man has a civilian ID of Alex Tron, and they're kind of partners. Um, just because E-Man needs an identity or whatever. But here we go over the origin. Basically, when the Big Bang happened, E-Man is basically just this sort of disembodied, sentient mass of energy that's just kind of floating around space. He runs into these aliens or these giant brains. They're coming to Earth, and he's just sort of following them. And he somehow came to Earth, and he got trapped in a light bulb that was in the dressing room of Nova Kane. Nova Kane was some sort of go-go dancer or what have you. All right. They meet up, become friends and partners. He decides he's going to become a superhero just because he needs something to do. Which is fine, which is fine. Not everybody has to be driven by vengeance, right? So there's more of that, more origin stuff. All right, okay. And here, E-Man decides he's through being a superhero because last time he tries to save someone, it didn't go great. Great White, star of Ocean, Tank, and Scream, in another reference to a Steven Spielberg movie, Jaws. And it kind of backfired on him, and he finds out that he is actually ruined an FBI sting. So he decides he's going to go into the movie business. He's going to take up Schmaltzberg's offer. All right. And now we find out that the evil space brain is actually still alive. And he's here on Earth. And he's pissed because he's been sitting around watching television all day. Then we cut to another scene, someplace far away. Parasite Industries Incorporated. Sensitivity to the needs of others is our business. And there's a guy there. There's a short guy with a beard creating mutants. Right? And this, of course, is set up for next issue. Anyway, back to this issue. I don't know if everybody's going to get this gag. E-Man and Michael go to Spielberg or Schmaltzberg's house, right? And they're greeted by the butler who's wearing an aviator's hat. You look real closely, you probably can't tell from this drawing, but I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be um, John Belushi. John Belushi was in a World War II comedy that Steven Spielberg directed called 1941. It got bad reviews and it underperformed. I don't think. See, I think most people think of it was like a flop when it came out. I don't think it was a flop like the company lost tons of money, but I do think it like really underperformed, and it's kind of seen as like one of Spielberg's failures because the public didn't fall in love with this movie like the way they did with his other films. But I'm pretty sure that's what this is supposed to be a reference to. All right, so anyway, um, they're in the screen room, and then stuff from the screen just starts appearing out of nowhere, and they're attacking E-Man and Michael, and la di da, crazy stuff's going on. They're being chased by Ferris wheels. Uh, Raiders of the Lost Ark shows up again, and then we find out the space brain is behind this, and he's giving Schmaltzberg the power to create anything out of his imagination. And this is actually all a plot because Originally, Space Brain was going to take over the world from behind the scenes. They were going to have E-Man become an actor. Then, after he becomes a famous actor, he was going to run for office, and then the big brain was going to control him from behind the scenes. This, of course, is a reference to Ronald Reagan, who was president in real life at the time. Ronald Reagan, of course, being an actor before he became a politician. All right, so Novocaine finds out where they're at, and hijinks ensue. Okay, they defeat the bad guys, and Nova kind of talks about how she wishes she had a real boyfriend, not this energy guy hanging around. Da, 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 da. I need something more, maybe someone, a man to love, not a man, child, and mother. All right. And then meanwhile, I've done it. The F-men are reality, birthrise, and I will unleash them onto an unsuspecting world. E-Man will be washed up, a has-been heroized, alone against the S-men. All right. And of course, the F-Men are a parody of the X-Men, who at that time were the biggest selling comic book. Marvel's biggest selling comic book, as well, I think just the biggest selling superhero comic book, period. They were getting all sorts of like kudos and awards and whatnot. And let's hear email. Here's the letters page, basically giving a backstory, I guess, about E-Man and whatnot. And here's some ads for the other first comics that are coming out. So here's Warp. Here's the next issue of E-Man, and then here's John Sabo Freelance. All right. And let's see here. Oh, now here's an ad. Ooh, this is really hard to see. It's really hard for me to see it in real life, so I don't know if you can see it on camera. It says fantasy and comic art from Bud Plant. So Curse Earth, I'm pretty sure that's I'm not pretty sure, it says it right there. But Judge Dredd by Brian Bolin, Boris Vallejo, I guess that's, yeah, Frank Miller and Neil Adams. Like, I can barely make any of that stuff out there. There's also some ads for Cerebus, I'm sorry, First Kingdom and ElfQuest, early independent self-published comics. Here's a John Bird parody of those old Twinkies ads. Rog 2000, another Charlton character. I'm not sure if John Byrne has always owned the character, or if it's another case of him buying the rights back after Charlton went under, like Joe Staten did with E-Man. And these are ads for comic book distributors. Okay. Oh, all right. Moondogs, Jim Comics, The Comic Connection. In the back is an ad for Styx Comic Service Publications List, summer 1982. All right, so then that is it. Thank you very much for watching. You guys have a good day.